A lot of people say that your keycap profile choice reflects your personality. So you're thinking of getting a new keycap set for your keyboard, but with all those options to choose from, which one is the one? Well, today is your lucky day because in this video, I'm going to do my very best to help you find the keycap profile most suitable for you and your keyboard. Hey guys, I'm Dominique, and first of all, what is a keycap profile? It's basically a combination of the shape of the contact surface, the shape of each row, and the height of a keycap. So there are 4 types of contact surfaces, starting with spherical, where the top of the keycap has a sphere-shaped indent. So if you had a marble, for example, you could basically place one on top of the keycap. This design actually goes way back to 1961 with the IBM typewriter. A modern example of the spherical contact surface is the MDA or SDA profile. Some people really like this shape because you can really feel that dip in the middle of the keycap. It's like it's hugging your fingertip. Then we have cylindrical, where the top of the keycap has a cylinder shape indent. Cherry and OEM profile have this shape. But how does this affect typing experience? Well, this shape helps guide the finger in a columnar disposition where the fingers generally just move up and down. If you have a columnar staggered keyboard, you may be more inclined to get a cylindrical top, like the Dygma Defy. When you move your fingers left to right, you really feel the edges because they're a little bit sharper. And this allows the user to know where the limits of the key are. And it helps prevent pressing 2 keys at the same time, theoretically. Then we have the flat keycaps, like the G20 profile and most laptop keycaps. This shape offers more contact surface, and when you use it, it also feels like you require less finger movement in general when typing. Just compare typing on a regular keyboard versus your laptop keys. And last are the convex keycaps, which have a more rounded shape at the top. These are generally only used for the space bar or the thumb keys because of how our thumbs press down on a key. Next up, the row shape. Pick up your keyboard right now and look at it from the side. You'll see that it's either sculpted or uniform. Sculpted keycaps have each row of keys at different heights and shapes. This is to help differentiate each row of keys. For example, is the DSS profile, Cherry, and OEM. The first row of keys is usually higher than the third or fourth, thus making them more comfortable to use and easier to access. The only downside of sculpted keycaps is that you can't shuffle the keycaps around your keyboard because they'll have different heights. And then, contrary to sculpted, there are keycaps that have the same shape and height for all rows, and this is called uniform. Examples are the XDA profile or MA profile. But what's the benefit of having it uniform? Well, if you're the type of person who fancies shuffling the keycaps around or putting the arrow keys in the middle of your keyboard, you can do that and it won't look out of place. And finally, we have the keycap heights. Low, medium, high. OEM is the standard height and it's considered a medium height keycap. So for everything that's 2 millimeters taller than OEM, we can consider high.
How high are you?
Hi, how are you?
Like the SA profile. It's both sculpted and spherical. Or the MT3 profile, which is sculpted and cylindrical. For all keycaps that are lower than 9 millimeters, we can consider them low height. For example, the DSA, G20, and the XVX low profile. Now that we've got the technical jargon out of the way, let's talk about some of the important factors to consider when buying a new keycap set. Number 1, your keyboard. Do you have a tall keyboard? If you do, then high profile keycaps are probably not the best idea, as they may lead to wrist extension. Unless, of course, you have palm rests or palm pads which allow you to place your wrists in line with your keys. Does your keyboard have a custom thumb cluster? Normally, these keycaps can't be replaced easily. If your keyboard has a thumb cluster, then you'd need to see if the keycap set you're interested in will both fit and look good on your keyboard. For example, for the Dygma Defy thumb cluster, the keys are made with the Cherry profile in mind. So consider that medium height for the rest of the keycaps. And as you can see here, I've mounted metal OEM keycaps on the Defy, and you can clearly see the differences between the heights of the Cherry and the OEM. I mean, it's just 2 millimeters of difference, but it's noticeable. But if that doesn't bother you, then it's not a problem. Another example is the Moonlander. The keycaps used here is OEM. And if you want to change the thumb keys, for example, well, you have to make sure that these 3 keys are not taller than this triangle key. Because if they were, then you'd have a hard time pressing this key. Does that make sense? Yeah. Makes sense. I'm glad it made sense. Another important question you have to ask yourself: how many 1-unit keycaps does my keyboard have? Normally, ortholinear or column staggered keyboards only use 1-unit keycaps, except for the thumb keys. 1 unit is the distance from one key to the next. If we take a look at a 100% keyboard, they have the following 1-unit keycaps: 40 in row 1, 18 on row 2, 14 on row 3, and 18 row 4 keycaps. On the Dygma Defy, there are 14 on row 1, 14 on row 2, 14 on row 3, and 12 on row 4. The Moonlander has the same number of 1-unit keycaps on rows 1 to 3, but then it has 22 on row 4. But it's not only the number of keycaps that you should be thinking about, but also whether they are sculpted or not. Since each row will be sculpted differently, this will give you some limitations. But again, with a uniform profile like the XDA, you can put any key anywhere. The second factor you need to consider is your hand size. For smaller hands, you might want to avoid high-profile keycaps since they might be a bit more difficult to reach and might require extra effort. For larger hands, you might prefer keys with a bigger contact surface to prevent double input, so maybe the spherical or flat models fit you better. So now that we have these things in mind, let's ask another important question. It's not the most important question in life, but it's an important question to consider when you're buying a keycap set. We're going down the route of psychology. A lot of people say that your keycap profile choice reflects your personality and who you are as a person. Just saying. So choose wisely. Little segue. So now that we have these things in mind, let's ask the question. What do you want to accomplish with your new keycap set?
What do you want? What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want?
Is it for aesthetics? You just wanna look cool? If so, then the keycap profile is really secondary. You can focus more on the colors and how it matches with your setup, if it allows shine through or not, and the materials and how it's made. We actually talk about this more in depth in another video, so you can check that out if you want. Or is it for practicality? Let's say that you want to start testing another keyboard layout, such as Colmac instead of QWERTY. You'd want the ability to move the keycaps freely around the keyboard to have that visual representation. If this is the case, then it would be best to use uniform profile keycaps. Another example would be the ADA profile or even the Tai-Hao Bobo profile. This is actually a very popular profile. Or maybe the reason you're getting a new set is for special circumstances. Maybe you're vision impaired and you need keycaps with big characters or legends and a larger contact surface. Then the best profile you should get for is a flat one with large letters like the G20 or this OEM profile, right? I mean, those are big letters.
That's what she said.
So, what is the right choice for you? Well, we can't go through every possible scenario to identify what suits each and every one of you, but we're hoping that with this information, you'll get equipped with the right tools to figure out that for yourself. Let's say, for example, that you have large hands and you have a columnar staggered keyboard and you're a fan of spherical keycaps because you like how the keycaps hug your fingertip every time you type on them. When it comes to the row shapes, you prefer them to be sculpted. Then the MDA profile might be a good choice for you. MDA keycaps are typically made with PPT plastic, ensuring a long-lasting keycap with great feel. The only downside to them is that they're still quite new in the market, so it might be difficult finding the ones you like. If spherical is not your thing, then you can get something like the ASA profile. They're more cylindrical and slightly taller than the MDA, but otherwise pretty similar. Conversely, if you have smaller hands,
They're not small, are they?
and prefer a bit of uniformity or a minimalism style, and you like that flat feel but with only a hint of the spherical shape, then the XVX low profile keycap could be your best bet. What's great about these keycaps is that they can fit in the standard MX switches, and they're perfect for those who want to enjoy the lower profile but also likes the feel and operating distance of the regular switches. The only issue is that these sets aren't built for columnar models, and you might encounter the problem of the 1-unit keycaps. If you have medium-sized hands,
Go! Go! Go, Web, go!
and like the spherical touch with a heavily sculpted bro, then the DSS could be your go-to. Though they can be on the pricier side and sometimes hard to find. Ultimately, like with most things in life, finding the right keycaps requires asking yourself the right questions. Are you thinking of changing your keycap set? Well, we'd love to hear it in the comments below. And don't forget, all of the links of these keycap profiles and where to buy them are found in the description below.